Hey, welcome to Crazy Beats Big, podcast powered by Rhino. I am hosting today Kevin Romeo, and this is a podcast about entrepreneurship and overcoming big obstacles. And today I have Eric Scott Johnson, co-founder of Gorilla. And thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
I'm really excited to have you on. One, just because Rhino's been big fans of Gorilla for such a long time, but then also putting out the film, that's a big step. And I think a really cool around here. Yeah. That doesn't happen a lot, you know. And I mean, even GR, no one's making a movie, so I think that's really
some
compelling.
Get made around here, but they're not born here.
Yeah,
right. They sort of come in and use some resources, and then saunter out.
Yeah. So I think that's really cool. And then
that's great. I'd love to.
So from my perspective too, what you're doing with making that film is something that I've always wanted for us to do. But I want to just talk through how you've made it work, making the time and like putting something out that's a passion project or whatever. How you made it work. That's what I want to talk through about a little bit. And then,
that's great. If I get off track too much, just send me back because I might wander a little bit on that because it's just tied to so much stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And then the other thing I was going to say, I think too, just how you guys have your Grand Rapids office and then the LA office, or maybe we can talk into that a little bit about that decision. And
it goes pretty hand in hand with the film stuff.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
Pretty connected from the entertainment side.
What's your day-to-day role looking like these days?
Yeah, well, it depends on what we're working on.
Yeah.
So for commercial work, I'm the lead creative director. So I'm trying to phase out actually from a fair amount of our directing jobs just as our roster grows. So we're really focused on increasing our director roster because we're bottlenecking.
Okay.
And we have been for a long time. So getting out of that day-to-day director role and being much more particular about the jobs that I take from a directing standpoint is really helpful because that accelerates how fast we can grow the team and elevate everybody else creatively. So if there's a director that has a lot of talent but needs more oversight, being able to come in and play the creative director role, lets me work directly with them to help hone those skills without me sort of having to influence the creative all the way. And two, and I'm sure you know this feeling, but I go to sleep every night with less individual problems on my mind. I'm sort of thinking about the silos that are going on rather than thinking about all the things that are specific to a project. And that just allows us to spin more plates at the same time. And I'm not the only one that's a creative director, but that's on the commercial side. And then on the entertainment side, right now, because the film's done, I'm playing more of a role of producer now that the film's done. When I co-wrote it and co-directed it, but now that we're into distribution, I'm playing more of the producer role where Eric Mashila, my directing partner and partner at Gorilla, is playing much more like the creative role. So I will be more of the architect of like a campaign or something like that. And then he'll be executing on the individual sort of deliverables.
Cool.
So, and then everything I just said, like I'd take that hat off and like all of a sudden you'd be like, dude, why are you sitting at a computer editing this morning? And I'm like, I don't know, I had to fix something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, cool. This is exciting because most of the people we interview are not connected to what we do and there's so much to learn from what you're doing.
Well, and that's why I hope it's not just me. Hopefully you've got a little bit of feedback too, because, I think the thing about being in a small market is, and this is one of the biggest challenges, is you're making it up as you go along. And I don't mean completely, but I don't know how you feel about this. But
we have shirts that say that. That's literally like one of our catchphrases.
Dude, it's tough,
Make it up
right?
as I go.
Because you're just like, for the most part, you're inventing an industry. Not that there aren't other people doing it or doing it well or whatever, but when we started working, we came in at a turning point where sort of digital was taking over. We shot our first 7 projects on film, and then I've never shot film again since then. And
I can't believe you did any.
I can't either. I hauled an Aeroflex 60mm camera around Warsaw for 2 weeks, carried it.
That's
the
wild.
things you do when you're young.
Yeah.
You're just like, this is a good idea, right?
Yeah.
But no, it changed, and so the industry changed, and then there we were. And it wasn't like you could look to a mentor. Right. If you're in a big market, New York, LA, even Chicago, Charlotte, Atlanta.
Can we be best friends?
Are you feeling all my pain right now?
Yeah, everything you're saying, I'm like, We're the same.
We're just like, where are the mentors?
Yeah.
You know, so you end up making it up a lot as you go along and kind of stumbling forward. But then the nice thing about that and going into a creative director role is now growing to a certain point where you can go, okay, there's so much I don't know. And hopefully I say that till the day I die, right? I long to be the dumbest person in the room or the least experienced person in the room. It doesn't happen as often as I'd like it to in a smaller market. And I think that's what appeals to me about bigger projects like a feature film or whatever, because it's intimidating. Yeah. I'm just like, oh shit. Like everybody here knows more than me. And that's a really exciting idea to me, you know, after a while. But on the flip side of that, like being able to leverage, you know, the things that we have sort of stumbled our way through, there is a lot we know now that we didn't, and we can use that. I wish there was someone that was where I am now when I started. That would have helped a lot. I think that would have accelerated a lot of growth. So at least we can leverage that. So I have two partners at Gorilla. I have Ross and Eric Machila. Ross Vandal and Eric Machila. Eric runs GRLA. So he runs all the, we call them all the things that are still trying to figure out how to make money. If I'm being honest. Like, so he produced the film we shot in Mexico. He produced the film we shot in Australia. And then he was the one that really pushed Manna, because I'm more anti-fragile when it comes to risk. And so I'm always trying to like balance that scale. And so I was always looking at Gorilla as like, okay, this is a mechanism that eventually could make IP, right? We can create IP and we can sell it. But my methodology was always like, let's wait a little longer. Let's wait a little longer. Let's stack some more resources. Let's build more experience. Let's get a little bit more connected. And he's the one that was like, no, we got to jump now. We have to jump. And it's good to have someone like that for me, because I will go that anti-fragile route where I'll try to make it so safe that if I jump, I know I can swim back. Yep. You know, like I built the castle. We can go on a little mission, but we can for sure come back. And he's like, okay, dude, big enough. Like we got to go. You know, having that person that's just like such a different personality than me, just with that, I don't give a shit. Like I have to make this. I have to make a thing. We got into film because we wanted to create, and you know, we paid our dues. We got to go create.
That's powerful.
And yeah, it's important to have somebody like that.
It's like your it's like your Moses in a way. Like, here's why we exist. Don't, you know, we didn't do this. We didn't come this far just so we could go back to slavery, not to get all biblical, but I got Camp Manna rolling here, so I'm like thinking about that stuff.
And I'm not afraid to tell I tell clients that. It's not like, you know, it's not like we do the commercial work because we have to, so we can do the other thing. You know, I heard an interview with David O. Russell once, and he said, you know, you know, don't be fooled to think that like movies pay my mortgage, commercials do. Yeah. And that's just the industry. I think that's something that you don't get told early on in a film career. It's just like, no, balance is important. And so for me, like I look at it more like I'm really comfortable telling clients that, because I say like all these things we're doing over here are value add. You just get to reap the benefits of all of those hurdles, all those storytelling hurdles, all of the production hurdles, all the things that we're crossing and learning because we've got these passions over here. So it's a symbiotic relationship because we're leveraging some of the resources that we're accumulating by doing commercial work to go create IP or do entertainment work. And that may be somewhat gratuitous, right? But what we're learning over there then makes its way all the way back and benefits the commercial work, and you continue to level up in that way, you know? That's so cool. It's good, but I don't think that, I think I would have played it a lot safer and built a lot more of the commercial side of the company if I didn't have that ass kicker just going like, now we got to go create something. But yeah, I would have played it safe.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't.
And this can be off the record, but are you at a point where you're kind of sick of talking about it? Like, no. I imagine that ever doesn't happen yet? Okay.
Well, no, because the film comes out on June 5, and so right now, like, this is just probably a coincidence. Yeah. You know, good timing or whatever, but our entire PR push started like a week ago. Okay. Right? So, like, I just got back from Minnesota. Yep. We have, 6 or 7 podcasts next week that we're doing. Nice. I was telling you I got to be out of here at a certain time because it's just media blitz all the time. Okay. And I think it's really good to talk about it. Like for me, like making a film like this, because it's satire in a way. Yeah. Like I always said, like I really want to make the movie, but the thing that I really can't wait to do is talk about why. You know, to me that was important. And like, I think somebody told me this once. They watched Book of Mormon. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not.
It's incredible. It'll make you angry. It's so
Really?
incredible. It's just like,
Okay.
like it's just so good. It'll make you just go like, fuck it. I'm giving up.
Okay.
You know
I
what
see
I
what you're
mean?
saying. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've had those experiences.
oh my God, it's so good. But somebody said afterwards, because it's scathing, right? Like it's just such brutal satire.
Yeah.
But someone said afterwards, they're like, man, they really loved that thing they were making fun of, you know? And it wasn't even that they were making fun of it. They
Sure.
were having fun with it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the film is so important to me, because I really wanted to make something where we love the thing we're satirizing, you know, which is very different than some things that are just on the outside looking in and just going like, look at these dumb shits, you know? And for me, it's just like, oh no, I know exactly what it feels like to be in here. I can understand where things are, you know, ridiculous or maybe sometimes misinterpreted or whatever, the heart underneath that really obscure or, you know, weird action or activity. And so being able to unpack that and validate it while also, you know, teasing
Poking
it out.
fun at it.
Yeah, like
Dude.
that's important, I think.
That is amazing. I think that there's a lot of depth to that. And for me, I think we're in a kind of time where comedy can only be done, or you see a lot of comedy where it's just kind of vicious and it doesn't seem like there's a undergirding of reverence for the subject matter. So that's really cool, I think, what you're doing. I kind of wondered if that was the case. Something about the way it comes across to me, maybe occurred to me that could be where you're coming from with it, where you're like, you have some endearment for the subject matter, but it's definitely something to mock, you know? So
yeah, and it's like mockery is I get why you say that, and it is a fair word, but it's a tough word because I think that when you say mock, it connotates an idea of on the outside looking in.
Okay.
Right? And I'm not criticizing it.
No,
it's
no,
just
no.
that's a natural way to describe it. Or cynicism is the same, right? Cynicism is sort of a bitterness towards something, right?
Yep.
And satire, if you look at satire, like that's been a very powerful sort of cathartic healing tool throughout history. I mean, going back to like the Iliad, like things like that, right? Like satire is something where there's this sort of pent frustration, but that frustration is also matched by an affinity towards something that's just like, okay, how do I talk about this? How do I sort of unload baggage while also like not throwing this thing under the bus? And satire has been a really interesting way to do that. I think that's why you see, you know, our entire generation like getting the news from the Daily Show is because like, because we're not we don't hate America. You know what I mean? Like we love our society. We love so much about our reality and our environment, but there's also these kind of pent frustrations. And watching the news or, you know, social, you know, sort of events or all these sort of things through the lens of satire, I think helps process it and go like, okay, I'm not the only one that loves this and is also a bit frustrated at the same time. Yeah. But I really resonate with what you say. That idea of just comedy that's mean just doesn't work for me. Yeah. And maybe it does work for some people, and that's fine, but it doesn't for me. I mean, there was Rob Schneider, of all people, former star of Surf Ninjas, and he
and the hot chick,
and
classics such as
Bit Rolls and the Waterboy. Yeah. No, he had this article last week actually that really resonated with me, where he was criticizing SNL, and he was just saying like some of this stuff just isn't working for me, and I agree with him. Like I just like, you go to comedy to escape. Yeah, you don't go there to be reminded of all the things that frustrate you. Like I'm going to comedy as a release, not as, you know, pack the pressure on. There's enough of that everywhere. Yeah, and so hopefully like this film, and it works really well for people that have shared some sort of an experience, whether it's a, you know, faith experience or belief experience or even just camp experience, right? Yeah. And some of that sort of childhood nostalgia is in there somewhere. Yep. It's been really fun to see people experience it and the solidarity that comes out of it, to go like, oh, like you get it. Like, you know how I feel. I'm trying to walk down the middle too. And, you know, it's freeing to have permission to make fun of something, but not have to do it in a way that I have to abandon it or leave it behind. Yeah. So it's a lot of I use a lot of words to say. It's a lot of words to say one thing, I guess. No, man, I'm excited. And I know that you had a premiere event, right? Didn't you? I thought I was following you online. You showed it somewhere, right? We just did it. I don't even know what you call. What do you call those first premieres? That was honestly like
private screenings.
Yeah, private screening. It was a thank you to Traverse City because we shot the film in Traverse City, Michigan,
I see.
and so much of the community came out and did so much to help us. I mean, the film is the story of getting that thing done is insane. We lost our lead actor 7 days before production because he didn't get his visa to come from the UK. Like the kid that's the star of the film is an outsider sort of coming in.
Oh, okay.
He's coming into this world of like, sort of hyper Christian camp. And he's from, outside of that world. He doesn't get it, right? Like he's just like, what is going on here? Yeah. So we'd cast it with someone that was a foreigner to the United States altogether because we thought that would make it more interesting. We lost him 7 days before. And this kid just walks in from Leelanau, from this area around Traverse City. He just walks into an open casting call. We weren't even looking to cast the role at the time. This was before we lost him. And we're just like, who is this dude? And he ends up being the lead in the film, and he's incredible.
Nice.
So good. That's good. Graduating from Interlochen and going to North Carolina School of the Arts or something like that. And just the weird, like, fortuitous things that happen are nuts. But anyway, so that community just gave a lot. So we did that screening for them. But it was fun, man. It was like 550 people in the State Theater.
What was it like to have the people in there watching your film and, hear their reactions and see the reactions?
It's the definition of insanity. It is. We did a screening, a screening at Art Prize as well. Okay. And that's the first time we screened it for an audience. And I remember it went over great. Like we had so much fun. The audience, they're homering a little bit, right? Like it's yet to be seen still on a completely unbiased audience.
Yes.
But it was a really fun screening. And it got done. And I remember I just looked at my wife and I'm just like, I worked 13 years of my life to get to the point where I could sit in a theater and listen to, 300 people laugh for 2 hours. What is wrong with me?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, and also I want to go do it again now. Yep.
That's killer.
It is kind of the definition of insanity. You have to love it because it doesn't make sense on paper.
Yeah. Well, I on a similar level, when we early on in our career as Rhino, we made this documentary about the Michigan beer scene, and it was very low budget. We didn't know what we were doing. We filmed all with DSLRs and really crappy mics, and it was like, but people in the industry loved it. And we had our big premiere at the State Theater here in Kalamazoo, and to sit there and like it's such a cheap word, but it was seriously like an electric environment. And I couldn't foresee this, but the amount of like hollering and like way over the top emotional responses to people that they saw on screen that they loved was like it was like a giant party and people like yelling and like laughing so much. And I thought, I can't imagine a better feeling than this.
No, it's a drug, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's that. I think that's why people keep doing it because it's not logical, but it is a drug.
Yeah,
to some degree.
It was profound, and I want to get back to that spot where we can put out our own work. And we actually have a documentary that we're having a four theater private screening at Celebration Cinema this Friday.
Really?
Yeah.
4?
Yeah. Well,
Dang.
here's why. Because the film is about a guy who's from Kalamazoo. He was a professional hockey player over in Europe. Yeah. He got ALS a few years ago, so he's got. We've been filming with him since the moment when he could walk. Now he cannot walk. He's in a very electric wheelchair. He's got very little ability to control his own body now.
Okay.
So he's got a ton of support. It wasn't like this,
You're going to fill 4 theaters?
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks. I mean,
wow.
He's got a lot of fans. I don't think it's us. Don't worry about us. I mean, it's not on our accord, but
still, that's ridiculous.
I think so. We're going to do that, and I'm excited to see that. But the up and down part about it is we're very proud of it, and we're honored that we've been able to be part of the story. But it's hard because you're trying to tell this story that gives you something and helps you feel redemptive. But at the same time, that that ALS is 100% fatal, and Scott knows that, and his family knows that. So it's a trick to tell the story in a way that doesn't make you just weep at the end. Mm-hmm. So it's been an emotional drain of a project, but a very meaningful project at the same time.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
So we like doing stuff like that, and I'm excited to see. There's some fun moments in the film for sure, and his kids are awesome, but it's very different than a bunch of people drinking beer and watching craft beer movie or whatever.
Yeah, but the emotion is emotion. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whether it's
Yeah.
comedy or drama or whatever, I think just the reaction
Yeah.
that's the electric thing. I
Yeah.
think when it connects, right? And that's a fear also. You know, every time. I don't care how many times I've screened something and I'm like, oh no, I know it works.
Yep.
Like with our film, I know exactly what's going to happen
Yep.
from screening it at this point. First 20 minutes, very little laughter because people are trying to figure out what it is. They're
Yep.
like, am I being made fun of? Is this not for me? Because I don't have anything to do with this world at
Yeah.
all, you know? And then
I don't relate,
as that
yeah.
first act sort of starts to resolve and turn and you get set up, you see people start to buy in, and then second act completes. And by the end of the film, like everyone's fully bought in. I know that's how it goes now because I've seen it happen over and over. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Every time I just walk in and go like, oh shit, I hope they like it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this weird, like, I don't know. You're just so invested.
Yeah.
You know, it's
It's
hard
your-
to
it's your
separate
baby.
it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So whether it's ALS or beer or, you know, it's
Camp
silly
Manna.
movie about a camp, you
Yeah.
know, it's the same thing.
So let me jump back then for a minute. So let me just talk to me about how did Gorilla get started, and then how did you get from where you started to now? Let's just
Yeah, good.
Tell me
Because
this-
it's connected.
okay.
Yeah. So we definitely started on accident.
Okay.
I mean, without a doubt. We, myself and one of my partners, we met on a film set. We were filming behind the scenes for feature films, and that's
Okay.
where we met. And we both were from here, but that was just coincidence. We
Okay.
met in Atlanta, and then blah blah blah. So we decided to do a little documentary project together, and somebody told us, "Hey, we'll fund this documentary." That it had a bit of an agenda to it or whatever. You've
Sure.
done these things, right? Like, there's a nonprofit behind it. And we said, okay, we'll do it if you let us shoot it on film, and we'll put all the money on the screen, but you got to let us shoot it on film, right?
Okay.
So that's the one I was talking about. Like we, hoisted up these old Airflex cameras and wandered around Warsaw for 2 weeks. And,
Wow.
it was great. But because of that, when we came back, we wanted to license a bunch of newsreel footage, and we couldn't do it without an EIN number.
Okay.
So we're like, well, I guess we'll, let's make a little business,
Yep.
so that we can finish the film. And then we got another project, and then we got another project. And then, and this was a long time ago, right? And all of a sudden we're like, hey, like we can actually do this, like just the two of us, like we don't have to have other jobs. Holy crap. And it's still like you're scraping to make ends meet.
Oh yeah. Was that
But,
10 years ago?
No, it
How long
was
ago?
2005.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
13.
Yeah, it was
Nice.
a long time ago. But I mean, when people ask how old is Gorilla, I say, well, we're 13 years old, but we're more like a 7-year-old startup.
I see what you're
You know what I mean? Like that really didn't. We were
Same.
figuring it out. Like Eric
We're
and I
dumb.
spent most of our time wandering around the world, shooting low budget documentary stuff for people.
Yep.
And I think we did like 70 countries in that first 5 years or something like that.
Wow.
We were just out of the country all the time.
Wow.
And it wasn't until after that we started to move into more commercial work.
Mm-hmm.
But it began, part of why it began was simultaneous to what I was telling you about with the documentary. We were sort of developing a friendship and realizing we had so much in common, and we started writing Camp Manna at the time. And we had written a short film just for fun. We were road tripping back from somewhere, and we just kind of wrote it on the fly.
Yep.
And we're like, hey, let's shoot this. So we shot it in like 4 days, and it was a blast. And it resonated, sort of the catharsis I'm talking about. I'm like, hey, I think like this voice that we have about this topic is something people, resonate with, maybe even more than I thought. I thought maybe this was just us unpacking some stuff. And so we're like, well, let's just write it into a feature as an exercise. Let's just do it. And that slowly began, you become attached, and then you're like, oh my gosh, we got to make this. And that thing, that impossible thing that every filmmaker wants to do, make a movie, right?
Yep.
Becomes this carrot. And it was out on the end of the stick in front of us. We're always trying to grab it.
Yep.
And we just couldn't get to it. And so what ended up happening is we ended up forming sort of a company and then a community and all these sorts of things. And a lot of it was in service of getting to that thing, right? And it wasn't like, it was because we were finding people around us that also wanted to get to that thing.
Yeah.
There were other people that are like, hey, I also like have these dreams or goals or aspirations of getting there. And especially where we are in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the ceiling is pretty evident. You can see the ceiling. It's sort of, you see companies come up and then they sort of peak at the biggest players in the industry. And then, That's the best work around. That's the best
Yep.
available. And at some point they fragment usually
Yep.
because no longer can it sustain it. And so now you have people go their separate ways. And it really is kind of a sad, process. It's a bummer, but I can see why it happens. And I think for us, we had this other thing, like the bar was out there. It was
Yeah.
above the ceiling. And
Yeah.
so what it did is it created this magnetism then that kept everybody bonded together, because we weren't just trying to get to how do we get the most out of the environment that we're in as far as, commercial work or whatever.
Yeah.
We're like, that's cool.
Yep.
But really what we wanted to do is get good at doing that work, pull those resources in, make ourselves, more equipped, more skilled, that sort of a thing, in service of getting to that dream. And what that did, I think, is it allowed us to not fragment when we hit the ceiling,
Yeah.
because we were trying to get to something way past it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really valuable thing that happened inevitably. We didn't plan that way, but looking back, having that common goal, and I think that's true, like not even just for a company, for a family, for a
Yeah.
nonprofit organization, whatever. Like having that common goal can equip you to work your way through trudge through a lot of stuff that isn't fun
Yeah.
or complicated, or that would even motivate you to go like, hey, maybe we should just go our separate ways because, you could make money and I could make money. And like,
Yeah.
but we're like, at the end of the day, we didn't care about that as much as we cared about getting to the thing. So that was the birth of Gorilla. And that was just created this sort of magnetizing force, and it kept on drawing other people in that felt the same way. So we would, have 3 interns. Maybe one wouldn't jive with that. Maybe one didn't. Maybe somebody didn't feel that way. They didn't have those same dreams or aspirations.
Yep.
They would usually sort of find the way out of the community, and they'd move on to LA, or they, start doing their own thing on their own or whatever. But for us, the community just sort of grew brick by brick in that way. And I think we're really lucky because, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way, but I work with people that are some of the people that I'm the closest to in life. And that's a really unusual thing that I try to remind myself of, especially when, something's difficult or hard, or like, project isn't going the way we want, or challenging. It's just like, but like you get to hang out with all your friends. That's your job, so who would you rather be doing this with?
Yeah. There's so much of what you just said that's very analogous to what we are. We had this moment one time where I'm always thinking about what's next. It's just kind of in me to be looking ahead to the future and planning and entrepreneurship, yada, yada. But I had 2 moments. One funny moment was a few years ago. We were like just stressed out about all this stuff going on. And we'd been working really hard for probably 5-6 years. And then we had just like, we're going to take a walk and we're going to walk to Jimmy John's. And it was just like 2 blocks away. And we sat down, and I think I was with Jeremy, who's one of our guys here. And Jared just said, like, this is an amazing experience we get to have. Like, we need to stop being so stressed out all the time and enjoy this. And it was just, I always remember those over in one of those little small Jimmy John's booths, where I kind of had that moment. And it's funny how you don't forget it, because you spend so much of your time working and thinking and stressing and such. And I had a similar moment out in Montana last summer. We were filming for some tourism stuff. A friend of mine brought us out there to do that. And similar thing, I actually think I was with Jeremy in a car too. And I said, every minute since we've been here, I've been thinking about how to make sure we get to come back. And I thought, why am I like this? Why can't I just enjoy being here right now? What's my problem? Because I'm having a great time. I need to stop worrying about getting us back here. We're here now. This is great, and just, I don't know, sometimes
we could take a deep left turn into some Enneagram stuff that we better not.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
No, I'm serious though. Like, it's just because I resonate with that so much. Like, being present, the thing that makes you, or for me anyway, the thing that makes me good at building and creating and planning for the future and never being satisfied with where we are, is also a thing that prevents me oftentimes from being present. And being present is sort of the point of life. You know what I mean? So I have to find ways to trick myself into being present, because otherwise I'll just try to create all the time and I'll never be there in the moment. But the thing that I take comfort in is oftentimes when I hear people talk that are farther down the road than I am.
Yeah.
They say the same things. I just listened to a podcast with Mark Duplass, and he was saying like that first short film that they had at Sundance, they're winning an award or something or have a screening, and he's like, immediately back in the hotel just writing his next thing. It's just like, what is it that makes just be there, just enjoy it. But I resonate with that so much.
Yeah.
I think my favorite place in the world is underwater because it's the only place that I can't do anything. I just have to survive.
Nice.
It's really weird. Like it genuinely, like if I can go underwater, I'm just like, all right, you just have to stay alive.
Yeah.
That's your only job now. Don't die.
That's cool. So I guess going through, obviously being in Grand Rapids, there's this, like you said, that ceiling. Same thing here. We've kind of talked about here in Kalamazoo. Except I didn't really know. I don't think I had the insight to know what that ceiling was. I kind of, we making it up as I go was totally our mantra. And I thought, I know there is a ceiling here. We're going to get to a point where we've maxed out on who has the vision and the ideas behind like the type of work we're doing and how that could relate to their work and their businesses. I knew we'd hit that point, but I didn't know when it would happen.
Yeah.
Or even like in business terms, you'd say, I don't even have an idea what the market here is and what market share could be had.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of gotten close though, being in Kalamazoo. So I very much relate with like, we've talked about at times here, like, well, what if we started a Rhino in another city? I don't know. I had a friend who was out in Reno, Nevada for a while, and I thought he'd be a great guy to have a local contact, and maybe we could do like a Rhino Reno, and it just sounded fun to say.
Yeah.
Then he moved, so it's not going to happen now. So, but I thought
off the list.
Yeah, but Reno's a cool area anyway. We've kind of thought about that. So when Gorilla has the LA, or when you started the LA office, I was really compelled by that. And talk to me about the strategy behind that, and then maybe how that's changed since then, or if it's changed, and like what did you expect to happen, and then how that's benefiting you, or how does that play out?
Yeah. I think it would be easy to posture that more than it's sort of my natural inclination is to posture it, and I'm not gonna. The reality is that having an LA presence more than anything is just a valuable marketing strategy.
Sure.
Number one. And I'm not trying to say it isn't useful or that it's effective and it isn't effective in other ways or that we're trying to pull the wool over. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's like, this, like, I mean, if you're trying to bring someone in to provide a service for you, there is something validating about that person coming from a larger market.
Sure.
At least in the tier clients that we want to go to, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's people don't look to a remote portion of the Midwest and go like, that's where I'm going to get my, team or whatever.
That's where the creatives are.
And it was weird because like we were winning awards that were on a high level, national Addy Awards where it's, it's Saatchi and Saatchi after us or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or,
that's crazy.
Wyden and Kennedy or whatever. And yet it just didn't matter. I mean, it didn't matter. We might as well have not even been there at the table because it really wasn't useful in any way. We couldn't leverage it. And so that was one of the reasons, just to say like, we need to have a presence in a bigger market because just the act of being there is legitimizing.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's not a big office, but it's purposeful. And the purposeful part is really more oriented around the entertainment work than it is around the commercial work. The commercial work, I think that it gives a sense of, assuredness or, sort of peace of mind. We shoot in LA a lot. We have a giant network of crew, but there's something that are going like, yeah, but you have an address. You know what I mean? Like, well, if we didn't have an address, like we'd still just do the exact same, thing. But the address makes people feel safe, and I understand that. But on the entertainment side, it's absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Not nearly as much as filmed in LA anymore. Still, a lot of things are. A lot of television. Netflix has really revamped like that. Sort of area for filming. But more than that, the business of film is still happening in LA. So much of Camp Manna, as we were, in pre-production or even before pre-production, just sort of designing our strategy or whatever. You need to be in a place where you can build those relationships, where you can have access to talent. I mean, the talent is still in LA by and large. We did most of our casting there. Ended up casting from all over, ironically, but we did a lot of our casting there. Gary Busey is in our movie. He's a little bit of a firecracker. But he's a particular guy, I would say, and that required us to make a number of trips to Malibu, California, just to sort of do what we had to do to make it work
Yeah.
for him. Well, if we didn't have an office there, it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not even sure like his agent would have taken our call if we
Yep.
didn't have an office there, and you're talking about a guy that isn't working a lot,
Yeah.
still talented, but, kind of, just kind of off the radar for a lot of people. And that's,
For sure.
but even then it
Yeah.
was necessary, you know what I mean? So it played a really valuable role in the entertainment side of things. And then just as we continue to develop IP and build those relationships, it's just going to be increasingly necessary.
Yeah.
But I think you could say the same thing if you weren't doing entertainment. I would argue you could say the same thing of Austin, New York, Chicago. It doesn't need to be LA by any means, especially in the commercial world.
Yep.
But in the entertainment world, I think it'd have to be New York or LA pretty easily.
Okay.
So that's what it is right now, and as we continue to grow, we'll leverage it more. And it's really nice when we have an LA production,
Yeah.
right? Because we are sustaining relationships and whatnot out there. But it's a small office.
Yeah. So, with the film Camp Manna, how did you go about raising capital for it? Did you do any sort of crowdfunding, or did you go after private investors? That's a whole mysterious world to me with what you're doing.
It is a mysterious world that is hands down my least favorite part of the process. That you tend to get a little desensitized the farther you get from making a film, but that one, I remember the fun parts and less of the pain.
Yeah.
But that one, sticks with me. The reality is, so when we started to make the movie, someone that knew what they were talking about told us that the average independent film takes 11 years to get made, like that first independent film, right? And we laughed at them. And now here we are, we're about 13 years later, we're just going into distribution, but it was 11 years to the year when we actually started shooting Camp Manna. And part of that is because the way that we built it, because we made a decision to stay in Grand Rapids, to build a creative community locally. I think this made it take longer in some ways, but it also gave us more creative control.
Yep.
We really looked at the goal of our company is part of the goal was to just stockpile a little bit. So we were stockpiling resources so that we could be the primary investor. So we're the primary stakeholder in our own film, which is very unusual for a small independent movie. I mean, really small ones, that's normal, but our budget was, you can see it on IMDb. It's about $1 million for the film.
Okay.
And being the primary stakeholder is really valuable. And it really helped too that we were the last film to qualify for Michigan Film Incentive. We're the last film in, so props to honestly to the state for that, because they didn't have to let us in and they did, which was pretty cool. And that really helped like a local production company, make their way. It was a big deal. But then for the rest of it, that still wasn't enough to make the movie. That was, just enough to get the ball rolling, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, I would have just kept on saving. Like, hey, let's not go yet. He's like, we got to go. And I'm like, I don't know where the rest of the money's coming from.
Yeah.
But once it's a weird thing, and I don't know if you've seen it with passion projects of your own, whether it's like, or even like the beer documentary or these things. Once somebody says, like, I'm jumping, and you're like, oh, shit, like, they're going to jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, you could talk about it all day. You could say, like, we're going to do this thing. We're going to do this thing for years and years and years. And it's like, great. Yeah. But once somebody sees you move, there's something happens where you just take that leap of faith a little bit. And people will respect that. And I think for us, like, once we said we were going and we put our money and our time where our mouth was, that's what really started to validate it. Then we started to have collaborators come on board and say, like, okay, I believe in this project. Like, I'd like to be on board, with you and help you produce it. And a lot of times, like, producing partners, a big part of the value of a producing partner is the network of people they're connected to. So you're like, yes, okay, you're attached to the film, you're on board with the film. Well, now they have ownership over something and their network comes in. And so you begin to draw on different investors. So we don't have a ton of investors for the movie. We have a couple major investors and then a handful of small investors that came on, and you just sort of make it work by hook or by crook, to get in there. But I think that the reason it worked is because it's a very collaborative process. Like they were very involved in the making of the film. Like we invited them to set. They came to set. They participated in the project process. Constant updates and feedback loop and all that sort of stuff. But more than anything, I think they weren't. If I'm being honest, they weren't investing in a movie. Like they weren't. They were. And that's what makes me just so incredibly grateful and also just scared shitless every night because I want to do right by them. But, they were investing in us. Yeah. They are in an independent film. I think they looked at it and said, like, a lot of them knew us for a long time. They're like, these dudes have been talking about doing this and they haven't given up. Like, they're actually doing this thing. I think they're worth investing in, and I think for me, I feel a ton of pressure to make them whole on the investment. Mm-hmm. But I also know that that's actually secondary to the reason why they did it. Like, if you're in a position to invest in a film, that's a pretty bad investment. You know, statistically, I'm saying I'm glad they did it. It's
thankful
great,
for your investment.
But I mean, like, maybe just go drill holes in your backyard and see if oil pops up. Like, maybe that'd be more effective.
Yeah.
But it worked. It worked out, and I think right now, like they are, they've been the kind of investors. They haven't been, calling us up and saying like, "Where is this? What's going on? What's happening?" There's a lot of trust there, and I think that's because when they got in, they said like, "We know that these people are going to do what they say they're going to do." Trust. And that was the other thing about building a company and taking the time to do it, because on the one hand, we were saving resources, but I think more than anything, we were building social credibility to say, they do what they say they're going to do. They follow through. They're not going to quit. Like if we invest in them, whether they make, 100% or 0% on our investment, I know they're going to do every single thing that they need to do to get this done.
Yeah.
Those are the people I invest in. Yeah. If I'm going to put my trust in someone or help someone start something or whatever, like that's what I'm looking for. I'm not, if I want to roll dice, I'll roll them somewhere else.
Yeah.
You're investing in a person.
That's good, man. Yeah. I actually just spoke about that at a social media conference yesterday in Kalamazoo. Oh, really? They asked me to speak about micro content. And then after I said yes, I realized I don't care about micro content at all. I was like, I can't think of something I care less about in the realm of social media. In fact, I kind of hate social media. A lot of people love hate with social media, but I thought I don't know
burdensome relationship.
Yeah. And so, but I kind of reframed the whole talk around the idea of like, just because it's micro content doesn't mean you can put something out that's not true and authentic and therefore lose trust in your audience that your audience has in your brand. And I was kind of saying like brands are just like humans in the fact that they build trust over time and it's earned over time and it's easy to lose it. Frankly, if you just like how any human can and lose trust, brands can do the same. So anyway, that's really cool.
I feel the same way about social media for sure. Personally, I have a love-hate relationship with it where, it is a really important platform, I think, as a way to change collective thought. Yeah. Very similar to the film industry. If you look at the 60s and 70s, like what was doing the most to change people's perspective on civil rights and things like that? Oh, yeah. Well, it's the slow burn of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, In the Heat of the Night, things like that. And now, like in our generation, Milk, movies like this that are changing society, but they're doing it like quietly and sort of changing the norm. Yeah. So I think that social media has that power in some ways, but it also just has the power to be so vindictive and terrible or whatever. Yeah. But the thing that I've actually really fallen in love with it has to do with the film now. Like up to that point, I'm just like, this is the place where people go to like, talk about what's important to them or show pictures of their kids or argue about stuff or whatever. Yeah. But with the movie, like really realizing the value of the targeted nature of it, which is really weird, like within the last 2 months. And all this Cambridge Analytica stuff and all that sort of thing where you're like, wow, like that's really bad. And also like, that's kind of what we're doing
that's what everyone
for the
does.
movie. And that's why like, not in a negative way or a subversive way, but in a way that says like that is the value of social media. And I think it's 100%. The value to the audience if you're respectful of them. Yeah. For me to go, there is a world of people out there that have had a similar experience to what I had, resonate with the values that I have or resonate with the themes that I'm projecting in my film. Yep. I got to find them. Well, in the past, it was just like, get the shotgun out and just start blasting all over. And it was so inefficient.
Yep.
And now, as creators, we can actually target audiences with our own content and do it very effectively. That's so much power in your own hands. And so for us, we're really excited to own a portion of our movie, to be in a position to target the audience. And we're building social content for them. So there's a respectful way to do it, to say, I think that people like me will love this. I can create it, and then I can send it directly to them just by these algorithms. That's a pretty amazing thing. And I think that I've gotten a bit of a resurgence of excitement and respect around social media.
Yeah.
Doing it from a business perspective as opposed to from a personal perspective.
Yeah. I actually, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I don't want to get too down that track for me, because I'll start rambling and it won't make any sense.
I'm curious.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've always thought of social media. I've pretty much since Rhino started, I slowly backed away personally and only use it to benefit things I'm working on. And I know that to some people that sounds self-serving, but I've really two things that really speak to me about social media. One is just like how much, I think someone said, like, we were all worried that the government would take our privacy away, and then we just gave it away for convenience anyway.
Right.
So I'm really torn
So
on
accurate.
the how, like, and there's nothing wrong with it, I don't think, but I'm really careful about how often I share images of, like, my family and my kids, because I heard someone say that the children growing up from the last 10 years, their entire lives are going to be online forever. And I'm really thankful for the anonymity I have from my most childhood and teenage. No one really can see the stupid things I did or, like, all that. And I'm really just curious how that'll play out. I don't know how it'll play out.
Yeah.
And I've also thought on the converse, I wonder if I'm going to actually do my kids a disservice by, like, letting them be kind of anonymous until they can have their own social media when they're older or whatever.
It's impossible to know, though, right?
It's
new territory,
Yeah,
right? We haven't had a Facebook president yet, where it's just like your entire history is.
We've got a Twitter president.
We do.
Yeah.
We sure do.
Yeah.
But we don't have those childhood pictures, thank God.
Yeah.
I don't
that's
need
true,
anymore.
yeah.
But there will come a time.
Yeah.
That was a little rant. I don't know if I want to keep that one in there.
Yeah.
There will come a time where we're going to elect someone whose entire life is on display since birth.
And how real is it? At what point do they start curating it? Yeah.
Oh my God. There's already companies that all they do is scrape, right?
Yeah.
All they do is just go curate and scrape and that sort of a thing. So we will get the impression that we know a person, or that we get the idea of the integrity of that person's sort of entire life, when in reality, it's going to be a curated image. It's just going to be a hell of a lot of work to curate.
Yeah, that's true.
But I respect that you don't do that. I'm very opposite of that, like with my family, but I have a multiracial family, and so we end up talking about a lot of things that are very relevant, socially right now. So my family often just becomes part of that conversation. I think that's good. For us, it's good. And I also really respect that you don't do that. I was a kid that, I was homeschooled growing up. I grew up out in the country. Yeah, I had a pretty weird, a weird, fulfilling but very strange childhood. But it was off the map.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was really off the grid. And there are things about that looking back, I really, really value.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't have known at the time. So I think that's rad that you do that. I think everybody's got to make that choice.
Yeah. And I don't, and again, I don't judge because you post pictures of your kids, and lots of people that are friends. And I'm not saying I never do it. I try to be really careful about doing it. And the other side of it for me is, for me to post more pictures of my kids, I have to have my phone in my hand more. And I just really get sick of that. And I'd love to just lock it in a locker every weekend, and that'd be that. But so
good on you.
I don't know.
No, I feel that for sure.
And I'm on my phone all the time, though. I mean, for work and stuff, it's nonstop, so I get it. Yeah, man, drink up. So, I thought an interesting thing too that I was going to mention. This is a little bit more relevant 5 minutes ago, but something I heard someone say. I don't remember who said this, but they said the thing that America still has that is so powerful that makes it seem like we are, quote unquote, on top, is Hollywood.
It's
like,
that's our export.
That is our export, right? That idea that, like, we're telling the stories of that make like meaningful, deep impact on people all over the globe, and that's their impression of America as John Wayne, or that's their impression of America as Arnold
Maybe now
Schwarzenegger.
it's Twitter, but
Yeah. Well,
no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
That's cool though.
That's
that
our most positive export in some ways.
Yeah. So what happens now with Camp Manna? Now that the film's gonna premiere and you're gonna be in, how does that look and how does that work, and how do you when you first have the initial screenings, who's watching it to say, oh, this is performing well, and now let's see if we can get into some more theaters? Talk me through that process.
So this is fascinating. So we don't have a theatrical release.
Okay.
We're straight to VOD.
Okay.
It's really interesting, and I think
Locally, you're not doing your own releases locally.
we're not doing a theatrical run at all, and I can tell you why.
Tell me why.
Yeah. So if you think about, I have kids.
Yeah.
I'm the target demo for this movie. Just in general, the performance of independent films versus blockbusters is really, it's stratified quite a bit at this point. And for me, even the things that I have enjoyed the most or liked the most, very few of them have been theatrically released.
Okay.
Now, I love, like, the theater is
Yeah.
just mecca for me. I love going to the theater.
Yeah.
But I also recognize that there are really effective platforms of delivering content to people in a way. And so for us, for a small independent film, we just don't have the star power to drive people to the theater. And that's not to say anything about the quality of the film.
Sure. No,
But
I
just
get
to
that.
say, like, Gary Busey is not going to get people to the theater. It's weird. It's going to get them to maybe click a button online and be like, who
Sure.
the hell just tried putting Busey in a movie? Like, that's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
You know?
Eric Scott Johnson.
Yeah, we did it. No, and I'm really glad we did. He was a stud. But, or Jimmy Tatro, right? Jimmy Tatro's in our film, and he's got, 3 million YouTube followers, subscribers, or whatever, right? That's a significant number.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't translate into, and now I have to go see the
Theatrical.
film. Like, this is not Age of Ultron or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good reference.
And
Age of
it's just
Ultron.
not,
Yeah.
it just doesn't have that power to drive it there. And so I think accepting that is a really important part of where we are in the process, to say,
Yeah.
that's not where our audience is. That's not where they're not going to participate in this. And that's fine. That's okay. That's not where I, watched a lot of the things I loved over the past year. I've watched them at home on VOD or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that allowed us to get very, to strategize much more with our marketing,
Yeah.
right? It became much more about targeting marketing rather than just trying to get people out to a theater.
Yep.
So when we do these theatrical screenings right now, they're more like celebratory press pieces,
Yep.
if you will. Like, it's a way to bring exposure to the film. It's a way to, sort of give back to the communities that were involved. So, like I said, we did one at Art Prize. We did one, a couple weeks ago. We'll do another one at the end of, you should come. We're going to do another one at the end of June.
Yeah.
Or end of
We'll get the
July,
date,
or May, right before the film releases. And then we'll do another one in Chicago. But they're mostly to generate buzz and excitement around the film.
Yeah.
When in reality, the best thing for the film is to release on VOD. And we learned that, though, by going through the process. We wrapped production on Manna almost 2 years ago, finished the post-production process, and that was really interesting because we did screenings then, audience feedback, reworked things, a number of rounds of just taking some punches to the chin and getting back up and going like, no, we can make it better.
Yeah.
A couple of reshoots, things to really make it the best that it could be. But then we got to the point where, like, okay, let's start shopping it to distributors.
Yep.
And we have an amazing PR firm, WIT PR, that took on all of that work of shopping it to distributors. And we would get the same feedback every time. This is a really good movie. We really like it. We don't know how to get to your audience.
Mm.
And I think that's a very fair assessment. The audience for this film is an underserved audience for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're, them going like, we don't know how to get there. So what they would say is, like, we got offers from, like, places like Lionsgate and Open Road and things like that to say, okay, we'd love to, take the film on. And we would just be like, well, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, well, we'll platter it to the, VOD destinations. We're like, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, it means we're going to throw it out into the ocean. And if, magic happens, we're going to take 50%. And if it doesn't, there it is. And they weren't being tools about it. That's just their model.
Yeah.
It's a broken model for a small film like ours, but we're at this point in history that's incredible and very scary, but incredible, where we stepped back and we looked at it and we said, okay, why don't we just do what they're going to do? then,
Yeah.
which is a very pretentious idea. I
Sure.
get that, to assume that like you can do that. But when you do the math, what you have to recoup
Yep.
goes down so significantly that we could say, okay, we could do it ourselves. And maybe we can't do it great, and we'll probably learn a ton of stuff. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying we're going to hit a home run the first time, but it would be more valuable for us to take this property
Yep.
and go try and learn and exhaust those resources on our own and work our way through the pain of that to get better at it, because that's the future.
Yep.
That's what it looks like. So we've been able to set ourselves up for our own distribution process completely with a release on iTunes, Amazon Prime, Google Video, Fandango, Vudu, like all of the platforms, anything that's not streaming.
Yeah.
So Netflix or Hulu, those are streaming subscription services. That would be a different contract.
Okay.
So anything that's rent, like per play, we are on, and we're able to take all the resources that we would have put elsewhere and funnel them into our own marketing campaign. So we hired the same PR firm that Lionsgate would have hired to do this with PR. We brought on, a publicity. We brought on all of these things. We developed our own social marketing campaign. And now we can, like I was saying earlier, like we can be extremely targeted with our digital advertising and send our trailer drops in a week. And when we send it out, we can just be like, bing, 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 directly to our audience. So there will be audiences everywhere that have no idea that this film exists. And that's fine, because it's probably not for them, and they're not going to click to watch it. And recognizing that that was a possibility gave us the bravery to sort of say, let's try this. We might not be very good at it. We might learn a lot of things along the way. And it sucks, because I'd really like to have like the prestige of Lionsgate at the beginning of the film or whatever. That's really validating. But in the end, this is the future. And if we can figure out how to do this, it's going to be an incredibly empowering experience to go, whoa. Okay, now what?
Now we know the whole vertical of the film production process.
Yeah, and the film we made, I mean, we learned so much from that. Is, would I make another camp movie with 25 speaking roles? No, I've learned a lot of things that would tell me not to do that. But if this model works, what could you do with a film that has 5 characters? And is a small idea.
Yeah.
Now that you know the way, all the way from development, all the way to the point when someone hits purchase.
Yep.
That's an incredibly empowering place to be. And as filmmakers, like we can tackle that. We can actually, go down that road on our own, which is the first in history.
Yeah. John Hughes movies. After I saw because I actually hadn't seen The Breakfast Club ever until maybe 3 years ago. And after I saw that, I was so addicted to the idea of writing just basically a one scene play that could become a film. Like I thought that's how you do it right there. Just take like this core group of characters, they all get put in a situation, and then make it compelling. That's pretty cool.
12 Angry Men.
Yeah, 12 Angry Men, exactly. That's a better example. I should know that.
Breakfast Club is awesome. John Hughes is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. And one of the reasons is, though, he tapped into something, and I'm sure it was on purpose, but there are a few genres of film, especially in comedy, that stand the test of time.
Yeah.
High school. The look and the feel of high school might change, but the general sort of tribalism of it, always the same. And so it just stands, right? Like, Ferris Bueller's Day, like all these sort of things, like they still work. Breakfast Club still works. The other 2 genres that always work, Christmas movies and camp movies. Because these worlds don't change. You can watch Christmas Vacation or Home Alone or whatever every year,
2 of my
because
favorites.
it's where the whole world just sort of like
we all
pauses
descend
time,
upon.
and we do these same sort of traditions and all this sort of stuff. And camp is the same way. I mean, you go to camp and like turn off your real life. And you go into this other world basically where
that's cool.
So
did John Hughes direct Uncle Buck? Was that a John Hughes film?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's one of my
favorite.
favorite.
He wrote it.
That's one of my favorite.
I don't know if he directed it.
He
wrote a lot of the films that I love that he didn't direct, though. Like Christmas Vacation, he wrote.
He did?
I'm pretty sure he wrote it, but he didn't direct it.
That would make sense. Set in Chicago.
I know he did, because he wrote. So Christmas Vacation is like, for me, like one of the perfect comedies.
Yeah, we're the same person basically.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
People say like, so what is your favorite movie? And they're like expecting me to be like,
Christmas
like
Vacation.
Virgin Suicides. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, Christmas Vacation.
Yeah,
You know?
I like when he hits the deer and the Santa Claus in the front yard.
It's just like, what more could you ask for as a filmmaker than
Yeah.
to bring people joy on a yearly basis throughout their
Forever.
lives?
Yeah.
I mean, what do
Yeah.
I want besides that? Nothing, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But he made that film off of it's available online. You can find it. He wrote a short story called like My Family's Vacation or something. And
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Really?
And he turned that into the original National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh, okay.
Like the Wally World one.
Okay.
And then that sort of bled its way into the characters and these other things. But
That's
you could
awesome.
see how like these ideas were percolating from childhood, basically.
Yeah.
That dude's incredible.
So I have a question that's, I don't know if this will be good in the podcast or not, but I'm going to ask it because I'm really curious. So I have a couple different film ideas. In Camp Manna, I can imagine that you're drawing from real life experiences and real people. Is that true or not? I mean, you're probably,
Hyperbolized versions. of that,
Hyperbolized.
right? So you get into the film, like one
Yeah.
of the scenes in the film is like, there's, for example, like, Jesus themed mini golf, right?
Yeah.
Which when you see it visually, like, you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's not like I sat down and went like, what would be funny? You're just going like, remember that one time
Yeah.
that like my
Yeah.
parents made me go to mini golf and I had to like putt into like a whale's mouth, like a Jonah, course 4 is Jonah.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. You're mostly drawing from real experience and then hyperbolizing it to the point where it becomes satire. So,
Yeah.
the Last Supper eating contest is a mix of my childhood plus, scenes from Stand By Me. That sort of thing.
Okay. Because I have actually, this family, there's a family that I grew up around that was so interesting. And I have this I basically am piecing together scenes from memories of stories I have from them and secondhand told stories about them. That would be a perfect high school film, like a high school coming of age story. And I don't know how to do that. Because I'm like, there's no way that family or anyone from my hometown could see that and not know it's about them. I'm like, but it's so good that I'm like, I got to figure this out. And I don't know. I've really kept that.
Yeah, I don't know when it's that rooted in something,
Yeah,
right? Like that's like a David Sedaris question or something. You know what I mean? Like there's other people that are, doing that well. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because there's no characters in this. There's no characters in this that are, directly.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done some podcasts already around the film, and we've had people go, I watched a pre-screener, and the kid's aunt and uncle, like that's everyone in my family.
Yeah.
And my response is like, yeah, that's everyone in my family too.
Yep.
But it's no one person. It's an amalgamation of all these things.
Yep. Yeah. That's cool. So what do you want to do post this film? Like, okay, so this film has been very instrumental to your company story and Gorilla and all that kind of revolves around this in some ways, and it's like at the center of it all. Mm-hmm. How do you feel going forward then? What's next for you? I know it's kind of an annoying question, but what do you see happening down the road then?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer actually, because there's two sides to it. I think on the commercial side, from the company side, being that I have all their partners, these are people that have their their own creative visions and dreams and that sort of stuff. Is on the commercial side, I think it's time for me to step back and support someone else for a little while. Like we've had so much trust and support and belief for Eric and I in getting this, getting this thing all the way to birthing it in the world. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. And now it's time, I think, for us to support someone else doing the same thing. Not to say we'll stop, but I think that cycle will go in that direction. From an entertainment side or directing side, I think it's a hard question to answer right now, kind of for the same reason that studios would say, we love this movie and we don't know how to get it to your audience. Right now, I had a very unique, what I think is unique childhood.
Yeah.
And that, I grew up in this very sort of wildly hyperbolized sort of Christian evangelical culture.
Yeah.
And yet, like, I still have an affinity for it in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, so many people I love are a part of this culture still. Like, it's a part of who I am in some ways still.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm walking this weird line down the middle where, I'm not throwing it all out, but at the same time, like, I'm willing to call bullshit on, some of the stuff that just isn't really resonating. And
Yeah.
I don't know right now if that voice is a voice that is needed in the world or if that voice is going to have like 17 people go like, yeah, that was awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think for me, that's going to matter as I think about what's next. Because if we get a response to the film where people go, that was cathartic for me. Thank you for helping me to be able to unload some of the things that like I just couldn't process and also like find a way to love something.
Yeah.
If I'm able to help someone do that, I'm in. Like, I want to make more of this stuff. I want to talk about this stuff. I want to, if humor or satire is a healing force and something for good, not just like, let's be cynical and make fun of something. If people resonate with that idea, I think then the floodgates will open, and that's a voice that I have that I want to keep telling things with.
Sure.
That will dictate what comes next.
Yep.
If that's not the case, I'm okay with that. I don't get to choose how many people resonate with the film. It's just not up to me. I just have to make the best thing I know and then see what happens.
Yeah.
In that case, then I think I have to assess the situation. I love filmmaking. I love the community of filmmaking. I love the people that I get to work with.
Yeah.
And I think then it will be an opportunity to step back and say, who can I support right now? Maybe down the road, I will have a vision that I really want to express about something else. So I think it's yet to be seen. I think over the course of the next couple months, as the film gets released and we see what happens, it's going to make a big difference to me.
Yeah.
That's a bullshit answer, isn't it?
Oh, no, I thought it was excellent. Cool. Did you ever think that, did you ever consider that you would move Gorilla completely out of Michigan? Did you ever like ponder maybe it's worth like taking it to Chicago or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, all the time.
Yeah.
Not move it completely, I don't think. When we started, we assessed the environment and we kind of saw like 3 ways to go. It was, I wasn't married at the time. It was Eric and I, and, we can move to LA and work our way up the chain of command or whatever. But we saw a lot of people getting stuck as like lifetime ADs and things like that, right? Because they weren't creating, they were just working for somebody else.
Yep.
So we sort of ruled that out, that moving to LA. And then the other options were like be a starving artist and just make short films and live on ramen noodles,
Yep.
or build a company and then eventually leverage it into, doing what we're doing now.
Yep.
So the strategy to this point has worked really well. And in the process, because it's attracted so many other people that feel the same way in the community that we love, it makes sense to continue to grow from that point. But like I said before, there is a ceiling on it, right?
Yeah.
So for now, I don't think it's about picking up or moving. It's about expanding. It's about giving people opportunity, because there are people that get to this point where they're like, I want my career to grow in a certain way. It can't grow anymore that way from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah.
But these are my people. This is my tribe. Like, I love this. And I would love to be in a position where we can continue to grow with them, where we can support them and say, okay, what does it look like for you to run an office out of Austin? Similar to what we do in, LA. Much of that was birthed out of one of the partners saying, like, I need to be out there. And it's like, great. So let's be out there then.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more about organic support than anything else, which sounds really altruistic, but maybe that's just, maybe I'm lack of planning on my part, but
You want it all.
I haven't been that successful just trying to wedge my way into something. It's been much more successful for us when it's sort of organically birthed out of someone's vision or passion to do something, and then finding a way to support it.
Yeah.
I think that's how we'll grow.
What was the first thing that made you feel like what was the first big project for you that you went, I think we've not made it, but hit a level of success that you thought you were validated at? I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. When am I gonna get that project or that level of, oh, cool, we can actually make money doing this, and this can be sustainable as a career?
Man, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm being honest, dude, like, I wake up every morning and still, look around and go like, are we playing house right now? I don't know if you feel like, I feel like that. Genuinely do. And that's not to undermine what we're doing. It's just being honest. Like, I'm sort of perpetually scared.
Yeah.
The good kind of scared, the kind of scared that like makes you, I played basketball in high school and I just wanted to puke before every game.
Yeah.
Why? It's high school. Like, who gives a shit, right?
Yeah.
But I did. Like, it's just, that's how I feel all the time. And I think that it's the kind of fear that drives you to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
But it kind of always feels like we're still trying to get there.
Yeah.
In a way. Like, with the film coming out, I don't step back and go, aha, we've done it. We have a movie with stars Gary Busey. You know, it's fun. Like, it's a really fun film. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
But like, it's not like we're not filming with the Hemsworth brothers over here. You know what I mean? Like, there's a long way to go.
Yeah.
And I think arriving or feeling that sense of like validation, I wonder if that will ever come, to be honest with you.
It honestly kind of reminds me of like when you're going through school, and in elementary school, you start out as the peon, and then you get to 5th grade, now you're the big kid. And then in 6th grade, you have to start all over. And you go up 8th grade. You know, it feels like maybe that's what you're going through.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are such a respected group doing the commercial work, and everyone knows who you are. And then you go to put out a feature length film, and all of a sudden it's like, who's that? I don't know about them. And you're almost like starting at the bottom, kind of.
It was very telling when you start to put offers out to talent, and their agents are just like, don't even read the script. They're just like, nope. You know, who are these guys? It's a catch-22, right? Because you need the talent in your film to get on the map, but to be on the map, you know, you've got to also be in that position where you've already done it before to get the talent in the film.
Yep.
And so it is that for sure. It's just like, you know, we're big fish in a small pond. Right now. And that has its own challenges, right? That's why this is so rad that like you're doing this and like having people down here. Cause I think like our community needs to work really, really hard to say like, yeah, this is a small pond. And just cause we're, you know, big fish in certain areas, you know, we gotta work, we gotta stick together. We gotta collaborate. We gotta be supporting each other because soon as you go to a bigger market, you are no one. You know what I mean? Yeah. At least I'm no one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think like that's always top of mind for me still, like how small we are in the big picture, and you know, just trying to get better, just trying to hustle. Yeah.
So I think the last thing for me, just kind of like peer-to-peer type thing. Does your wife work too, or she stay home with your family and your kids?
My wife works part-time at Gorilla.
Okay.
Just does some of our accounting work and internal bookkeeping and things like that, which is pretty cool because it allows her to stay connected to the community. Yeah. You know, we took our whole company to Sundance this year as like a
in Utah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just out there.
Just to inspire everyone. Like that was our kind of big community thing that we did this year. And so for her, like she's connected enough that it makes sense to be a part of that, those sorts of things. So it's pretty cool in that way. But I got 4 kids. Yeah. And so just the way that it shook out in our family, which is, you know, different for every family, but the way it shook out in our family is, you know, she decided that for the time being, like she'd like to be with them for part of that time. And I really respect that. And, you know, once they're all in school, I highly doubt that will be the case. But so she works with us some of the time.
So my question is, I imagine you have to spend a fair amount of time away from home.
Yeah.
True?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you guys make that work? I mean, does she ever just go, why do you got to be so busy?
Yes to that one.
Yeah.
For sure. The traveling, I think, I've been traveling like this. Like I said, the first couple of years that we were doing this, we were out of the country 4 months out of the year. And that's when Teresa and I started dating. And so it's always been part of our normal. And so, like, you know, we like to say, like, you know, we both knew what we were signing up for. Yeah. You know, and so it's been my kids' norm, you know, and I think it's good for me. You know, 3 of my kids are adopted and 2 of them from another country. Okay. And so seeing me like live internationally and be able to have those experiences and talk to them about it and, you know, project sort of what it is to be like a citizen of the world rather than, you know, just such a nationalist sort of insulated perspective is really important. So although me being gone for stretches of time is not ideal, the life experience that it's given me, the perspective that it's given me that I can share with my family that can become part of who we are, the way we see the world, the way that I set an example for my kids or teach my kids, those sorts of things, I think is really valuable and really covers over, you know, the challenges of being gone because it's not ideal. But in the big picture, like, that's our thing. Like, we know that that's, you know, what we're going to do. And, you know, I got 2 8-year-olds and they're already like, when can we go with you to Zambia? You know, that sort of thing. And my answer is like, I don't know. Like, I hope soon, you know, like I'm going to try to take advantage of this, you know, and put them in a position to also benefit from the fact that I sort of live a global kind of career. Yeah. Cool. I don't know. Maybe that's an answer? I don't know.
No, I'll take it.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess That's great. I super enjoyed this. Honestly, I could probably talk to you for a lot of time.
There's a lot to talk about, isn't there?
Yeah.
We'll have to do it again.
Yeah. So, where do people find your stuff? Like, just do a quick,
Yeah.
what website, what Instagram, where do you want people to find you?
Yeah. So for the movie, campmannathemovie.com, a quick note to anyone buying a domain, don't look it up and then buy it a week later because some bot will come in and buy the name you want. So campmannathemovie.com. And then all of our social stuff on Instagram and on Facebook is Camp Manna Movie. So if you look up Camp Manna Movie, you can follow us there, and we're putting out tons of social fodder. Trailer comes out shortly.
Yeah.
Film comes out June 5. And then for me on Instagram, it's Eric Scott Johnson.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you, man.
Dude, thank you. This is super cool. Super fun.
Yeah, talk soon.
All right.